Hello bookworms! Today I'm going to be sharing a kind of short and sweet video with you. I'm going to be talking about series that I've been considering giving another chance and then letting you guys try to convince me in the comments if I should indeed give them a second chance or if I should just cut my losses and not look back. So some of the series I have kind of already decided, like, yes, I do want to go back and give that one a second chance, and then other series I'm kind of like, I'm unsure, I'm thinking about it, I'm considering it, and now I'm asking your opinion. So the first one that I'll talk about, which is one that I am 100% planning on going back to, is the Winternight Trilogy by Katherine Arden. I love Katherine Arden's writing. I think that she is a phenomenal author. I really like her middle grade series, and I read the first book in the Winternight Trilogy, really loved it, but then waited way too long to pick up the second book. My plan is to reread book one and then read books 2 and 3 pretty close together. That way I'll have everything like fresh in my mind. I feel like, I mean, it has Winternight in the series title, so I feel like this is a good series to save for the winter, which is kind of what I've been doing. And I also ordered the beautiful Fairy Loot editions of these, which I think are shipping in October, if I'm remembering correctly. I'll probably wait until I get those before I dive back into it, but I'm very excited about this one. I actually had tried to start reading the second one, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful, but also, who are these people? So that's why I decided to stop, and I was like, I do really need to reread the first one before I try to dive into this second one. So this is 100% for sure. Like, I don't need any convincing. I am going to give this series another shot. Next is one that I feel more iffy on, and that is the A Discovery of Witches series by Deborah Harkness. I absolutely loved book 1, but again, I waited a really long time between books 1 and 2, and then when I started reading the second one, I wasn't enjoying it very much. I felt like the main male character, Matthew, was being kind of a jerk in the beginning, and I don't know, maybe it's justified later in the book, but I DNF'd it. I didn't end up finishing it. And I don't know, again, if it's because I waited too long between books, if I should have tried to binge read them like one after another, or if that was a good decision on my part. So I know that like there's the TV adaptation now that a lot of people seem to like, and I'm kind of curious about watching that too, though I do really want to read the books before watching it. I always like reading the books first. I think like a lot of you can probably relate to that. But yeah, so I'm kind of iffy on A Discovery of Witches. Let me know what you think I should do about that one. Next is The Witchlands by Susan Dennard. So this is another one where the first book I actually would still consider to be one of my favorite books. I really loved Truth Witch. I thought it was such a great series starter. And then I just didn't really care for the second one. I thought it was fine, but I just didn't love it. Though I do think that I've kind of changed as a reader since I read that second book. I do think that the series reads more adult than young adult, and at the time that I read it, I was reading more young adult fiction, so I'm not sure if I gave it another shot if I would appreciate the second book more than I did in the past. And then what happened with this one is that Susan took a really long time to write the third book, so by the time the third book came out, it had been like a couple of years, and I knew that I wouldn't remember anything if I tried to pick the third one up. So I just kind of didn't. I'm just so curious about it because I loved that first one so much. So I'm wondering if I were to keep going, if it would get better. I have not heard the best things about the most recent installment, which is what kind of made me feel iffy about it, because originally I felt pretty confident that I would reread the first and second one and then keep going, but now I'm like, should I? I don't know. So yeah, this one I definitely want opinions on because I don't really know what I want to do. Next is the An Ember in the Ashes series. So I loved books 1 and 2. They were 2 of my all-time favorite books. I would still consider books 1 and 2 to be all-time favorites of mine, but then I was so disappointed with the third one, and the reason I think that is because I read the third one without rereading books 1 and 2, and there was a really long gap between books 2 and 3, and what happened was there was a big reveal in book 3 that I thought everyone knew already. I had been kind of theorizing that that was the way things were since book 1 actually, and then we find out in book 3 that that is in fact the case. So for people who read them back to back, that was probably like, oh my gosh, so satisfying. This thing is the thing. But for me, I was like, wait, didn't we already know that? And that just like kind of worked to the detriment of the story. But I do want to know how things wrap up. I am curious about it. And I do have so much love for the first 2 that I feel like it would be worth rereading and then rereading that 3rd one, but maybe enjoying it more and then, you know, checking out the conclusion. So let me know what you think about that one. That one I am kind of confident that I want to give another shot, but I don't know. I think I need some convincing. Next on my list is Black Dagger Brotherhood. So I didn't think that I would ever say this because I really disliked the first book in the Black Dagger Brotherhood series. I thought it was over the top. I thought it was ridiculous. I thought the villain was awful. He was a mustache twirling villain. He just seemed so cheesy to me. And it's also like tough to get past the names of all of the characters. Like it's just kind of silly and like it's not a serious series, which is what I'm used to reading. Though I've heard that the first couple are kind of rough, but then once you get past those, they get really good. So I'm debating if I want to put myself through the next couple that aren't great. I think it's only like the next 2 that people say are like not great, or it might even only be the 2nd book. I'm not really sure. I don't remember. And then they get really good. So I do really like vampires. I am really curious. So I think maybe I'll give it a shot on audio and see if that would help at all. But let me know what you think. Like, do you think that I'll end up enjoying it if I get past that beginning portion, or does it stay like as ridiculous and I'll just be like rolling my eyes throughout these 20 something books that exist? Next would be the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. So I read the first one back in, it was either 2015. No, I think it was 2015. It might have been 2014. It was like really early on. So like really early days of booktube, I read the first one and I liked it, but I never continued on. And I definitely will need to reread the first one if I do want to continue. Though I have been enjoying urban fantasy lately, which is kind of new for me. So I think I do want to give this one a shot. There are like a bunch of other series that in the urban fantasy genre that I want to get to first. So this one is like not a top priority, but I am curious to continue. But I know that there are a lot of these too, so it's like a very big commitment to revisit this series. But let me know if you think it's worth doing. Then next on my list is the Fablehaven series by Brandon Mull. I read the first book and I really liked it. I think I gave it 4 stars, but I read it before I really appreciated middle grade fantasy. Like there was a while there where I really liked adult fantasy and young adult fantasy, and I felt like I was just too old for middle grade. But I read a really good quote. It was actually on like the Goodreads loading page a couple of years ago, and I was like, I feel like this is so accurate. I can't remember who said it, but it was something along the lines of like, I'm finally old enough to enjoy middle grade fantasy, or like to enjoy stories for young people. And I feel like I've gotten to that point in my life. I can appreciate the wholesomeness and just like enjoy, like it's just fun, like a fun whimsical kind of thing. Not everything needs to be very serious. And then this series involved fairies, which I love. So I kind of want to give this one another shot. I think that if I were to reread it now, it could end up being a favorite series because it is like the kind of fantasy that I enjoy. And I do remember liking it when I read it, despite not really loving middle grade. So I think I have kind of high hopes for this one. And then the last series that I am kind of on the fence about is the Truly Devious series by Maureen Johnson. I read the first book. I really liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun, but I never continued on, and I feel like the series had kind of mixed reviews. Like people seemed to either like really like it or really dislike it, and I kind of fell in the middle, so I never felt really compelled to continue. I liked that it had like the historical perspective and then the current perspective. I thought that that was kind of a fun way to tell the story, but I would definitely need to reread the first one if I were going to continue. I think there are some other YA mystery series that I prefer to read first. For instance, like the Holly Jackson series, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. That one I'm like definitely wanting to read the whole thing of, whereas Truly Devious, I'm not sure if I want to go back. I'm on the fence. So those are all of the series that I have stopped reading, but I'm on the fence about. They're not ones where I'm like, this is a hard no. They're ones where I'm willing to listen to people and to see if anyone thinks it's worth me continuing or if I should stop. So let me know your thoughts on literally every single series that I mentioned in this video. If you've read them, I'm really curious to know if it's worth continuing on or if I should just stop where I did and find new books to like. So that's all that I have for this video, and I will see you guys soon in a new one. Bye!